not need protein. You need to make it. You need to manufacture it. And eating protein is not the most effective way of making protein. Just like eating your hair is not going to make you grow more hair.
The health of your erectile functions is directly correlated to your cardiovascular function.
100%.
Joining us today are Miguel Bertonati, a leading biohacker and clinic director at the Medical Health Institute, known for personalized hormone therapy.
And Carlos Bertonati, co-founder and head manager dedicated to innovative functional medicine. Stay tuned for an insightful discussion.
93% of Americans are suffering from some kind of metabolic dysfunction.
What kind of amino acids are you doing? You doing like
We're talking
essential amino acids.
These
Not
nasty-
BCAAs. Not BCAAs.
Did you know about the French study? 2,500 people when the sea hit over 50 years of age. They were doing a study on cancer patients. None of them got sick. None of them.
Wow.
And they were all taking methylene blue.
Let's go to another system of the body, immune system.
I would say, like, we get this a lot. Like, oh yeah, I tore my bicep like 15 years ago. I want to use VPC and thymosin beta 4.
A little too late.
It's like, dude, no.
Cognitive health, brain health. What peptides do we got?
Well, I have to caveat with one thing.
So all right, man, let's go into peptide 101, right? And I think the way we're going to start this one is let's just go from head to toe, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start off with cognitive health, right? Brain health. What peptides do we got?
Well, I have to caveat with one thing. Because in our medical practice, typically we have a tier system, like a sort of patented tier system. We would put peptides in tier 3, with the exception somebody's obese and has, he's basically at the verge of dying.
Yeah.
We would start with a GOP right off the bat if it indicates that we can, or they have an injury.
Oh.
There's the exceptions, right? But for the majority of the cases, we would never use peptides right off the gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the same thing as, when you plan to build a home, you gather up all the resources so you can build a home. You don't be a construction worker with just shovel and sand and expect to build a house. You're not going to get a house. You're going to get something built on sand.
Yeah.
So your cells, this is where you have to understand the key components that your cells need in order to process so per cell, we have per second over 1 billion different chemical reactions. Most people don't know that. And we have over roughly 40 trillion cells and about 100,000 trillion mitochondria. You make that math. It's very difficult. So the point is, I'll just give you one example. Magnesium. Magnesium treats mTOR, PKA, insulin, and growth hormone signaling pathways, and sirtuins. Those are basically the most important regulatory pathways of regenerating the body. Just magnesium by itself. 42% of enzymatic functions rely on magnesium. In fact, if you had at a cellular level a deficiency in magnesium and copper, your red blood cells go from 120 days down to 20 days, which is an 86% loss in life expectancy.
That's crazy.
So that's just one molecule that we're talking about, right? So before we get somebody into peptides, we first have to clean up the Christmas tree that we find on their blood work, their diet, the drinking, the lifestyle, clean up the environment, then get them on these key molecules like magnesium, theanine, GABA-aminobutyric acid, essential amino acids, nitric oxides, omegas, a personalized multivitamin at a GNC, or I don't want to say GNC, any vitamin shop, off the shelf vitamin.
McDonald's vitamins.
Exactly. A personalized vitamin, and it's certified in regards to quality, purity, and efficacy, right?
So you're building the foundation.
Right. You first have to
100%.
build that foundation. So, because you have to understand something. Let's define a peptide. What is a peptide? So a peptide is a signaling agent telling the cell what to do. It's giving it an instruction. So naturally, we have over 7,000 peptide reactions. Insulin was the first peptide we had to regulate insulin, right? Melanotan-2, which is what I've been injecting. I'll show you a picture later. You can put it on the screen if you want. I'm white as Casper, but I've been injecting melanotan-2 for over 8 years, twice a week. Yeah. So I produce more melanin in my skin. It's called melagenesis. So it stimulates the melanocyte stimulating hormone receptors to produce more melanin. So it's a natural sunblock, right? So we have for the brain, we have for erectile function, we have for recovery, we have for everything you could possibly imagine.
Right. Yeah.
And peptides are also, think of them as small proteins. So a protein would be considered 100 amino acids plus. A polypeptide is 50 to 99 amino acids, right? And then a peptide is anywhere from 2 to 50 amino acids. It has its exceptions that we're not going to get into scientifically, but it's basically in that realm of amino acids. So think of it as a small protein that is telling the body what to do. So if I'm sick, I drink, I'm pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, I'm basically a mess, and hey, give me the CJC EPA to burn fat.
Flushed it down the toilet.
It might as well don't take anything, because you're not going to get any result, and if you do, it's going to be minimal, and then that's where you hear people, oh, and I tried peptides, it didn't work.
So
to kind of like just for like layman's term, what he was saying, it's a signaling molecule, right? So it gives an instruction. So the way that I like to say it is like, hey, it's like a GC showing up to the construction site. He doesn't do the work. He just says, hey, guys, I need you to build me a Ritz-Carlton quality bathroom.
Right.
And the workers are like, yeah, all right, cool. Where are the materials? That's the thing, you know. The economy's been kind of tough. Supply chain issues have been a real problem. Let's try to do it with what we have. Here's a pile of rocks, some paper, and some glue. Oh, okay, boss. Well, you're not going to get Ritz-Carlton quality, right? And so if your body is deficient in the molecules that he said that you're missing, this is why peptides, like if you do it ethically, has to be an advanced thing. Because if you don't till the soil and plant the nutrients that the body is going to need, the cells are going to need it in order to act upon the GC instructions, then the peptides are going to do nothing.
Right. So you're basically saying if the cells are not nourished properly, right? What you're doing is you're basically going to be signaling garbage.
Well, you're going to be signaling, and the cells are going to be like, oh,
what do I do?
So you want me to make muscle? Great idea. What do you want me to build it with?
So this is good that you guys bring this up, because a lot of people end up, and even in traditional medicine, they always disregard nutrients, right? Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty
electrolytes,
acids,
antioxidants,
all of that,
enzymes.
all of that stuff.
And they always disregard it. But when you start looking at emergency medicine and you see what they give people who are having a dysrhythmia or dehydrated, it's all these different nutrients, right? You're giving patients magnesium chloride, potassium, calcium gluconate, all of that stuff. These are FDA approved actual medications that are just nutrients that your body needs to function. I think it was there's an actual it was 35 micronutrients that your body needs for it to function on a daily basis. Right. So this is good that you guys bring this up as building the foundation, making sure that the body is fully nourished and optimized before you start doing some of these advanced
100%.
peptides. So let's say we already got all these nutrients. We got them, but we built the foundation. Now let's get into the peptides, right?
Just so people can understand, the reason why I wanted to lay that out is because peptides are incredible, but they've been given a bad name because there's a lot of money-driven players that are just, hey, you want it? Sure, come.
Well,
bring
there's a
your
lot
money.
of sources out there too, right?
And people get allured by the sexiness of the peptides, you know, because they see these pictures, and it's like, hey, it's kind of like everybody wants to live in a $5 million mansion, but
they don't want to put the work.
People forget that $5 million mansion is only standing in good if it has good plumbing and good foundation, and that's the unsexy stuff.
Yeah. So my point is, and we're not going to get into it. We can get into maybe some other podcasts. There's also these research-based peptides that are being sold online that have no documentation for sterility and the toxicity and the safety behind them, and they can defragmentalize into particles that can damage your DNA and become cancerous and actually be hepatotoxic, meaning they're toxic for your liver. So there's a lot of peptides out there, websites that, as long as they have the disclaimer, this is for research purposes only, and it's not intended for human or animal use, they can sell them online. And people are trusting these things and injecting them into their body without having any proper documentation of it, right? And when we're talking about peptides, you need a peptide to be 98% or more purity. If it's under
For human use.
For human use.
Not for Petri dishes, for human use.
Exactly.
Right.
If it's under 95%, that's where the problems start, right? And these research peptides can be 75 to 95. Right. So if you're ever going to go get a peptide, number one, go with a clinic that's looking at your lifestyle, meaning your diet, how you're sleeping, if you're exercising, that they're giving you proper nutrients prior to the peptide. And then once you got a healthy lifestyle, that's when you bring them in, right? And if you're hormone deficient, specifically on testosterone, we need to fix to your hormone level, specifically starting with testosterone, right? Once we got your testosterone dialed in and key components that we just spoke about, now the peptides can flourish. Yeah. So that's the only disclaimer I wanted to give. Maybe you don't necessarily
need testosterone, but like you said, like we need the system to be running properly, right? Yeah. I love when people call us, hey, I want some peptides. I'm like, you're not ready for peptides.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So that's
No.
how you know. Like anybody that you walk in and they haven't even seen your life, you want peptides. Oh yeah, sure, we'll give you peptides. Like it's a human candy store. Run,
Right.
run.
So you want to start with nootropics.
Yes.
Let's start off with brain health.
Yeah.
Brain health. Well, I like starting there. In fact, one of our protocols is actually starting with brain health, because if I'm going to give you a growth hormone secretagogue, which is just a peptide that's simply more growth hormone and growth hormone factors out of your hypothalamus to your pituitary and liver, we first have to clean out the HPA axis, which is a hypothalamus pituitary axis, which is basically your two master commander centers that are instructing everything in your body. So if you smoke, if you did drugs, if you partied a lot and you didn't sleep enough, you're accumulating a lot of neurotoxicity and debris that stays in the brain. And that's why people have mental fog and they just lose their memory and their learning ability and reaction time slows down because they have poo in their brain. Right. So we first have to flush it, especially since we're a hormone clinic. There's a lot of clinics still using anastrozole, which is an estrogen blocker, which is toxic for the brain. Right. We've got to completely rid of it because there's ways to completely get rid of it. So people who've taken a lot of anastrozole will have a lot of brain fog. So we need to clean that up first. And also for the 70-year-old patient that just their brains don't work as well, we need to clean up the commanding centers to then hit the physical aspect of the body, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have from CMAX, which is more for cognition. It's basically what I like to call your natural Adderall. It gives you mental focus. It helps with learning. It helps with neuroplasticity. There
was a study that actually it said it produces exuberant
synaptogenesis.
That's a fun term, right? Exuberant synaptogenesis. So it excites your neurons and it grows them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
so
really cool.
Before a meeting, or if you're going to write a research paper, you got a meeting, you take a nice nasal hit. Nootropics are best taken intranasally because they bypass the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
Rather, because you have CMAX, CLANK, you have a couple of them that are injectable, but they're better taken intranasally because they pass a blood-brain barrier and they take immediate effect.
It goes directly into the
and
brain.
you also want to sniff them, snort them almost. You don't want to just. You want to really hit the back of the nasal cavity, so it actually
get it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So for type A personality, you have something like CLANK. So you have CMAX.
But by the way, can I just mention something? So it's not necessarily like CMAX and CLANK. It's not necessarily for if you want to study, you got a meeting and you got to be on point, or you want to learn something amazing for that stuff, but also for physical performance. Like I remember the first time that he introduced me to make CMAX, and I was doing it, and when it had hit, I was on a skateboard, and I was just like practicing on a skateboard, and I literally felt connected, like it was like me and the board were one. Wow. And it was this like sync that I felt, and this is like that exuberant synaptogenesis. Like I literally felt like my dendrites had grown.
Yeah.
And I
So what's happening in your brain when that's happening?
With the CMAX?
Yeah.
So what it's doing, it's exciting the neurons, and it's making new neuron connections, right? So it's like, I guess, do we have memorized scans like on CMAX, like we do on psychedelics, or it just kind of like shows?
No, they do have. Yeah, they do have scans on it. So if you look at a neuron, you have the axon, the dendrites, right? So some will work on creating more synapses firing. Some more dendritic connections, so the dendrites, which are the branches, will grow. Some repair the axons, which is the main terminal where memory crosses through, and that leads to better dopamine, serotonin, GABA, norepinephrine production. So these are the feel like good neurotransmitters that turn into hormones in the body, right? So norepinephrine is the neurotransmitter that creates awareness, arousal, and then it converts into adrenaline in the body, which is actually the hormone consequence response of it. Yeah. So again, it's impossible to touch them all right now, but I'll give you kind of like the ABC. So CMAX is when you want focus, you want attention. You're gonna do a sport, you take it right before a sport. It's almost like you're super focused. You're absorbing the experience, and it's sticking to your brain much more than without it, right? One caveat that I'll give anytime you're using nootropics, plus minus, don't take them more than 8 weeks because it can have receptor attenuation. Yeah. The more you take them, it starts to lose its effect because it's kind of like you keep pressing the button and you start building tolerance. So you want to get off of them, or you want to know how to cycle them. So you can jump back and forth between different ones if you
How
know how to
often
do
do you
this.
cycle them? Like,
You can cycle forever as long as you know how they work and
but you do it for
But you want to
how long?
hit, you want if you never want to come off of them, you have to cycle them in a way where like you're doing different ones, so it
Yes.
hits the
Oh,
receptor
different
Yes,
receptors. Okay.
exactly.
But the idea is also take a little bit of time off and then just gain some of that like residual, and have
Right.
your brain do it on
Right.
its own as
Right,
well, But so yeah, CMAX, CLANK is a more anxiolytic, calming effect. It's very similar though, right, to CMAX?
Well, no, yes. The only difference is CLANK is it considers an anxiolytic. So instead of taking benzodiazepines to try to relax you and that sedate you, this doesn't sedate you, but it does calm the central nervous system down because it helps with the gamma aminobutyric acid, which is the most inhibitory neurotransmitter. But in many ways, it calms you down and it gives you focus. So for somebody like me that I'm type A hyper, that calms you down, so it gives you that focus, right? Then you have things like dihexa, which is one of my favorite. It literally cleans out. So you have your nervous system that connects to your brain, which is called the glymphatic with a G, glymphatic system. So when you don't get proper sleep, your brain cells are supposed to shrink about 40 to 50% when you sleep. So the glymphatic fluid can permeate the brain and get rid of the neural toxicity or debris that we accumulate, just like our poo, our cells poo.
Right,
So
right.
you need to get rid of that cellular debris if now you have that mental fog.
Which is wild, right? It's like your brain shrinks, cerebral spinal fluid comes in, and cleans out like Windex on a window.
Exactly. Literally like that. It wax on, wax off, cleans it out the brain. So dihexa literally regenerates your brain, causes neuroplasticity. It spikes brain-derived neurotrophic factors, which is the main protein that you need for neuroplasticity that makes your brain more pliable and moldable, so you can create new neuron connections.
So
right?
it's basically like you're like from a micro perspective, which by the way, that's what I feel like psychedelics do as well, and that's a different conversation. But it's kind of like it expands your mental real estate.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Kind of like like Hawaii expands through the volcano eruption as it gets bigger and bigger, right? So like your mental capacity is just kind of like that real estate just grows a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have VIP, which is it regulates your circadian rhythm, especially for jet lag. You can use it. I'm not going to get into it, but there's more like that. Then there's FGL. Then there's P21, which is a synthetic form of cerebrolysin. And then my favorite is cerebrolysin, which actually comes from, it's derived from brain's pigs.
No, yeah,
And-
pig's brain. Like kind of like a thyroid medication is derived from pig's thyroid.
Right. Right.
So they have the
Like
same.
armored thyroid, MP thyroid.
Right.
Same thing here, but for stroke, ischemia, what's it called? Most neurological,
Dementia, Alzheimer's.
dementia, all of them.
brain trauma.
You can literally, and you can use them IV, but it's literally stem cells for the brain. It's not even a peptide. It's a chain of many different peptides tied together. That's really a protein. And it's just think about stem cells for the brain. They will reshape and remodel your brain. So we like to do that once a year, like just to nourish the brain and give it that. You never want to lose the plasticity. But then again, when you're taking these things, if you want to amplify the effect, it's like taking protein and not working out and expecting your muscles to grow.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? So if you're doing this, learning a new language, an instrument, dancing,
playing music.
any of this type of stuff that is unnatural, it's gonna actually
brushing your teeth with your left hand. Or,
Exactly.
if you're right-handed.
do something that's different that makes you work, that makes your brain work. So these medications it's fitness for the brain. You're
Right,
taking
right.
supplements for the brain, so you got to do brain exercises that will fortify your brain,
That's pretty
right?
interesting. I like that. That's there's a lot that you can do. There's even technologies out there that can exercise your
Yeah.
brain as well too.
Yeah.
So mixing that with the medication.
And remember, like our like for example, I have my wife's grandmother is almost 90. I mean, she physically looks 90, right? But her brain.
sharp as a tack.
Oh my God! Sometimes I speak to her on the phone. I'm like, this woman sounds 30 years old, And
My grandmother was like that until she died.
so it's
at
really
age
important.
97.
Like you think about like the incidence, especially in women with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's a tragic disease. So to be able to have the technology now in this age to be able to have things that kind of feed the brain and brain cells and expand our mental real estate, I think it's invaluable.
But this is where things like nicotinamide mononucleotide, NAD, zinc, magnesium, nitric oxide, all these things are affecting the brain, right? They're
Testosterone.
key molecules, testosterone.
Yeah.
There's, and we're not getting into the longevity aspect. We're just talking basics, right? We do a lot of different things like phosphatidylglycerine or phosphatidylcholine, which feed into these major, there's about 60 neurotransmitters, 5 regulate the rest. So if you feed like glutamate, GABA, serotonin, dopamine, and you treat those and phosphatidylcholine, if you nourish those, you're nourishing all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you give your body these key components. You do brain exercises. You can literally do a brain exercise by going to the gym. You do your regular dumbbells, 1 foot in the air. Work on the balance, right?
And that's why like we'll take like scheduled, because if not, like, dude, we will work each other to the ground. You know, I mean, ambition is a thing, right? Like you got to be careful at the same time. So you have to schedule time for yourself where you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do what I love. And so, for example, for us, skiing and surfing and doing sports, I mean, that keeps our brain
Keeps it going. Yep.
in the moment. Because I mean, you think about, you're going 65 miles an hour skiing and you're difficult terrain. I mean, you have to make split second decisions, you know, in the moment. Right. And
be ready to go.
Yeah. You got to be ready to go, and you got to know where you're going. Like it's all this thing. And so for me, that's a humongous mental exercise.
So, all right. So we hit the brain. Yeah. Let's go to another system of the body.
Let's do it.
Immune system.
Oof.
I would say like Thymosin Alpha-1 is one of our favorite peptides. I mean, you know, when C came around, right? This was a peptide that was being used at the hospitals in New York City, and they reported that none of the staff got infected by using this peptide. Been around for 30 years.
Yeah, I used it around that time too.
Funny thing enough, when they started pushing people for the V, you know, it like we saw this systematic sort of like taking off the shelves with this peptide. Like first it became, you know, certain pharmacies couldn't make it, or you couldn't sell it under certain, you know, like guidelines, or sort of like you couldn't say that it was, you know, protecting you and all this stuff. But dude, we saw people that were nearly hospitalized or in the hospital and bounced back in 1 day.
Yeah.
You know, this is an immune modulator, right? So it's the amazing thing. It's that if you have autoimmune disease, meaning that you have a high running immune system, it downregulates your immune system, right? But if you have a compromised immune system, like, you know, when your T cells are down, right, which is part of what, you know, C attacks, it boosts up your metabolism. And I mean, there is not even like a way to even overdose on this peptide. Like you can take massive amounts of this stuff, and we've seen incredible results in terms of immunological response.
Yeah, it's one of the most, if not the most studied peptide with the most amount of evidence, used in 70 countries with over 70 real solid studies and thousands of patients.
For a lot of different viral
illnesses.
Different
I mean, the outcomes are unbelievable.
So at home, I always have 1 or 2 vials in case I'm getting sick. The cocktail is immediately, because you can tell when you're really healthy, you can smell, taste, and feel when you're going down. Like, oh, I'm going to immediately, I'll mix a vial.
The Oura ring will tell you too.
Yeah. But dude, when you're in tune the way we are, believe me, you can smell it. I can smell and taste when my immune system is down. And not to mention that I can feel my performance is low, because we don't just perform physically. Like we're running a operation with over 3,000 active patients, 29 people are the organization. We're growing about 100 new patients. Like we're growing. Right. This thing is moving, right? Yeah. So we finish training and it's go all day. And so I can feel when I'm going down. And as soon as I'm feeling going down, I mix the vial, I inject right away. I'm not going to talk about doses here, but I do the dose that they were using in hospitals, especially emergency doctors. And I'll do a 25,000 milligram intravenous vitamin C infusion. Nice. Literally, that within less than 36 hours, I'm back to normal. Me, like, we don't ever get sick, because immediately when the cells or the immune system starts to get suppressed, you're immediately countering it, right? Zinc, quercetin, NAC. I'm taking things of that nature in higher dose. Vitamin D, of course, I'm always in that 70 to 90 range. But when I'm getting sick, I'll go up to 50,000 units a day, right? Like just to kind of meet the immune response where I'm compromised. Yeah. So the point is, and this is a key major factor that I want to take home, the thymus is the first gland that goes. At 15 years of age, it starts to plummet. By the time you're in your 60s, you have less than 90% function of that thymus
gland that you have right here.
Yeah. So what happens is, if the thymic gland, you're inflamed, you're diabetic, you're on 4 prescription drugs, which is the average American, and you're in your 60s, no wonder why so many people drop dead. Because their immune system was already compromised. In fact, it was called lymphocytopenia,
Yeah.
which is a reduction in, hey, your lymphocytes are exhausted. We have normal lymphocytes, and your lymphocytes are your first line of defense when you get sick. And if you got no lymphocytes, you got no T cell production, natural killer cells, then you're out of gas. Yeah. You got no bullets in the chamber to fight off whatever.
Yeah, it's the difference between going through a category 5 hurricane with like plywood and no hurricane impact windows versus a house that's prepared for a hurricane. Right.
So that's something that we would cycle once a year to get the thymus gland reactivated to, hey, don't forget to produce these compounds, right? You want to wake up these glands that we have, especially as we age. But especially if you're going down with something, you want to respond immediately. Like if there's a fire, I want the firefighter to get there immediately. Right. You don't wait a day to start taking something. You start immediately taking something. This is what I'm talking about, becoming in tune with biohacking itself. You just know when you're at a level, you know when you're going down with something. Yeah. Yeah. So this is how we never get sick. Like, I don't care what virus hits in the future. I'm not worried about it because we've survived thousands of years and we're so dialed in that I'll take my chances with what we're doing. I mean, for God's sake, when the sea hit, we were surfing the next day, right? Wow. So, I mean, we were never afraid of it because...
Dude, I was massively exposed over 5 times. I never got any symptomatology. I never acquired the virus, and every time I got tested, I had no antibodies for it.
Yeah. Wow. In fact, at this point, because I understand the science so well, if we had another event like that, the first thing I would do, first of all, I would start doing these protocols to amp up my immune system, and then I would go get myself exposed to it because I would build the antibodies for it. I would build up my immune system to be immune to it. You don't want to run from it, you want to run towards it. But if you're going to run towards it, you better be prepared, right? You better be prepared.
That foundation better be built.
I don't recommend anybody to do this unless you understand the science and how your body works. And like all my inflammatory markers are at baseline. I'm excreting out of my bone marrow enough stem cells to recruit and repair my body. Like I'm fully dialed in. I know I'm very confident. It all starts in your mind as well. My mind is very confident that I can overcome it, right? But the final point is Thymosin Alpha-1. If you have a respiratory issue, LS37, it helps to expand the lungs and the alveoli to help you breathe if you're asthmatic or whatever. And then the supplements, as I said, NAC, zinc.
And I'll make a parenthesis. I don't want to open a can of worms because I know him. A little methylene blue will go a long way.
Methylene blue, yeah.
Well, okay, all right.